like organisations.
Linda Burney has been chosen by the Prime Minister to settle his most treasured policy, an Indigenous Voice to Parliament.
A voice to the Parliament, a recognition of First Peoples in the Australian Constitution.
The Weekend Australian magazine travelled out to the remote APY lands of South Australia with Burney on her quest to sell the voice. Her own story is remarkable. She was given away at birth by her white mother due to shame because her father was black.
I was born at a time when a white woman having an Aboriginal baby was shocking, and doubly so if that woman was not married. I was born at a time when the Australian government knew how many sheep there were, but not how many Aboriginal people. I was 10 years old before the '67 referendum fixed that. The first decade of my life was spent as a non-citizen.
At the age of 12, coming to terms with her own identity, she says it felt she'd come to a fork in the road and that she could lie to herself or that she could take the road of truth, the more difficult road, and embrace her Aboriginality. Burney believes that Australia is at a similar crossroads where it can deny the truth or it can embrace its Indigenous history. Her task includes confronting the objections raised by other Indigenous figures with a national profile. Warren Mundine, former National President of the Labor Party, says race-based constitutional rights don't work. Northern Territory Senator Jacinta Price says the voice would mean propping up another bureaucracy. How will Linda Burney convince Australians that an Indigenous voice will lead to better outcomes for people living in the remote tribal lands of South Australia? Burney's visit to the APY lands is part of a long consultation process that will determine exactly how it operates and the form it will take ahead of legislation. Burney got to see and hear about some of the immense problems facing this remote community.
Yeah. So how can we get all the workers out to the country without vehicles and all that to be able to do work?
Getting rid of feral cats and foxes. We're talking cats that are 7-8 kilos.
And part of your funds go in to help us monitoring this to make, let us know what's happening, but it's very difficult for us to control it all.
Okay.
We removed about 8,500 tonnes of allergies in plague proportions, breaking houses, breaking critical air conditioners, just to get a bit of fluid.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I want the voice to be owned by the Australian people, she says. Between Parliament and Cabinet, she's been to Adelaide, APY, Uluru, Alice, Darwin, Western New South Wales and the Torres Strait, and will soon do a big sweep of WA and the top end after the wet season. She's trying to bring us all along with her. She's urging Australians, as she sees it, to take the road of truth. At a primary school she visited, the teacher was wearing a microphone. Many of the kids in the class suffer from middle ear infections and have difficulty hearing and therefore learning. She was told that there are no mortuary services, and so people have to store the bodies of loved ones, sometimes for days, in their living rooms, waiting for friends and relatives to arrive for the sorry business. One of the APY elders, Donald Fraser, a veteran of the land rights movement, told me he thought the voice would be a great thing for his people and that it would mean that the many problems they face could be raised in Canberra. In the tiny community of Kalajiti, she was welcomed onto country by Auntie Nakoya Norris. The song was an allegory for the stolen generation. It was an emotional moment for a woman who was not so much stolen but given away in shame. It was extremely powerful, she said. I felt a little speechless and very honoured.